One of the greatest graphic novels got the DC animated movie treatment. So, let's see how they did. Lazy 99. Hey everybody, I'm LaserDude99 and welcome to my review of both Batman: The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and Part 2. Yes, I put off reviewing the first one for a little bit, so I decided, well, the second one's coming out, so let's just review them both. So, The Dark Knight Returns is one of the greatest graphic novels, and it is my favorite graphic novel that I've ever read. It's a story that brings up a whole lot of political issues. You know, and it gets into the psyche of Batman a whole lot, has enjoyable moments, and memorable lines. There's just so much good stuff about that I could go on forever, but we're here to talk about the movies. Now, the first time I watched the first part one, because I just rewatched this one, then watched this one for the first time. I remember watching the first one, and being a little disappointed. I didn't know why exactly. I was like, oh, fun. I mean, I feel a little disappointed, and then I went back and watched it and realized the reason I was disappointed had absolutely nothing to do with the movies at all. I will say this, guys, if you're going to watch these movies, make sure that you don't read the graphic novel beforehand. That's right, I said don't. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't read the graphic novel because, oh, it's just so much better, and if you watch these, it'll just be stupid in comparison. No, I'm not saying that. Definitely not. What I am saying is you don't want your mind to start comparing things that you just read and experienced on a comic book page to what you experience in these movies. That stuff we'll go into, but just to go over the basic story, if those who don't know, this is a story about Batman, who has been retired for tens of years and comes out of retirement to resume his war on crime.
You try to hold me back, but you're weak. Soul. You're nothing but a hollow shell. A rusty trap. The time has come.
And in doing this, he has to go up against old foes, old friends, and some new enemies that have come up. So I want to talk about the voice acting. So we got Batman, who is played by Peter Weller. That's right, RoboCop is playing Batman. And you know what? That voice it really lends itself well to Batman. At least this style of Batman, you know? The old Batman that's been out of it for a little while but still has the stuff and is still as cool and as badass as ever.
Do you know who I am, punk?
Where am I? I can't see.
I'm your worst nightmare. The kind that makes you wake up screaming for your mother.
I think I'm bleeding. What's on my face?
Quite an arsenal you had in that apartment. Combat weapons. You're going to tell me where you got them.
You're solid, man. I'll tell you. But no cops. And I walk. Deal?
You're in no position to negotiate. Let me show you.
voice really does lend itself well to Batman. I mean, almost every one of the iconic scenes that you got from The Dark Knight Returns is in this story well. It's portrayed well. He voices it well. He says it with that it doesn't sound like a quote. It sounds like something that Batman is saying, and it really comes across well. I really liked it. There's only a couple scenes here and there where I think it doesn't sound as serious enough, but a lot of stuff that you could complain about, I think is kind of just personal preference. The girl who does Carrie Kelly, Ariel Winter, she does a good job. I mean, I think she did a really good job. I hear some people who are annoyed by it. I'm like, why? She really portrays Carrie Kelly well, I think. You know, this naive but still, strong and innovative young lady that wants to be Batman's sidekick and ends up being that. There's a lot to play off of with her, and I think she gives some depth to the character. And all the other voices, I think, fit well enough as well. I mean, Gordon, the mutant leader, the guy who does the Joker, does a really good job, makes it really creepy, and it really stands out as its own Joker. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. I still would prefer the Red Hood Joker more to this. The guy who plays the Joker is Michael Emerson from Lost. I think he really does a good job with doing the Dark Knight Joker well. I have a couple of nitpicks with the voices, like I think Two-Face could have been a little better, but besides that, I think it's all done well. Let me just say that the best thing that this movie does is it's just a really good adaptation. Like, if you remember my Batman Year One review, you remember how I said it was almost page for page of the exact same story, so why don't you just read the comic book since you get more out of it? But now watching this, I think that the real thing is it's paced better, especially being broken up into two parts. The only complaint you might have is that since part one kind of ends off it just ends because, it's only halfway through the story, so they kind of end. It's only slightly just, I guess here it's over. But, it still has a climax to it. However, the thing I love about this movie, it takes all the scenes and all the action sequences, puts them and adds to them. And I don't just mean in length, I mean they add new twists and they add cooler things and stuff that makes sense, that's cool. And just a lot of stuff that makes it a lot of fun. Something I gotta talk about, these movies should not have been PG. Especially this one. Because let me just say, this is not a book for kids, and these movies are not something that you can just brush off, because this is violent stuff. I remember when I was watching the part 2, it was the scene where the Joker's in there and he's going to kill all the people in the TV studio. Now in the comic book, this robotic doll comes in and snaps the doctor's neck. Which I'm just like, well, are they going to do that? That's pretty extreme. It's pretty extreme for this, for an animated movie. I wonder if they're going to do that. Oh no, they didn't do that. What they do instead, Joker takes a glass, breaks it, and slits his throat!
What do your guests get to keep, Face?
Sure, you do whatever you want with it. We got a closet full of them.
So long as you won't miss it.
Blood's like gushing all over the desk. I'm just like, okay, that was something the Joker would do. I mean, just like, whoa, this is violent stuff. And especially with later on with the Joker's shooting people left and right. Bodies are flying all over the place. And it's dark. It's dark and it's awesomely dark. Because all these sequences have different angles to them. Like, Two-Face's fight isn't a strength one. It's more of Batman just getting into the game. This is his first fight, and he's confronting an old foe from his past. The mutant fight is more of a fighting smart type of fight, because he's definitely more physically fit than Batman is, and he has to fight smarter in order to defeat him. Joker's fight is more of a, I don't know what you would call it, because Joker, obviously, with a fist fight in this, Batman would have him down easily. But the thing is, just so many... It's like a game of tag, except instead of tagging other people, Joker's shooting everyone. And it's just really well done. I mean, I like how it's not... They don't take the Joker fight and make it a humongous fist fight duel between them, because that's not what a Batman-Joker fight should be about. They make it what it should be, and Joker's killing people left and right, and they exaggerate. And oh my gosh, the mutant fight was awesome. This isn't a mud hole, it's an operating table, and I'm the surgeon line was dealt perfectly. I could gush on about these movies because they handle all the set pieces, all your favorite moments perfectly. That is, except for this Superman-Batman fight. I don't know if... Call me just mean-spirited, but I think Batman should have beaten up on him a lot more. I mean, in the comic book, there's a scene in this movie where something happens and Superman basically goes down. In the comic book, when that thing happens, Batman starts screaming on Superman, beating him left, right, and center. And you're just like, I wanted that. Where it's just like, after that thing happens, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but after that thing happens, Batman just goes like, boom, boom, and then starts talking to him, and I'm just like, you could have still had Batman beat up on him a bit more. I wanted it to be, it's like, not a Batman fatality, but a brutality, call it what you want. I just wanted Batman to actually cream Superman. And not to say that I don't like Superman, it's just, this is how... Superman isn't exactly the good and wholesome hero in here. He's a government stooge. And the way they portray that is good. I'm glad that they went with Ronald Reagan and they didn't have some weird other president. They went with Ronald Reagan, that he was like the puppet master. And one thing I want to commend this movie is for doing something better than the comic book, the war. Because... maybe it's just I just glance over those things, but when I'm reading the comic book, the Cold War stuff always kind of felt like shoved in there, and it wasn't a focus of the story. Here they made it a sub-focus, so you get a little bit more time with this. But when it comes to movies versus books, as I've said before, comic books have a big advantage. For example, there's a scene in the comic book where Superman is, just attacking Russian stuff, and is, he's attacking Russian armies because he's a government stooge now. And he's talking to himself in his mind, saying stuff like, Bruce, why are you doing this sort of thing? And he's being mad at Bruce. And we really get into Superman's mind that way. But when those scenes come up in the animated movie, we just see Superman doing it. We don't get a glimpse into his mind. That's the advantage of comic books. The advantage of movies is motion. We get to see what happens. We get to see expressions actually change and shift, where comic books we're stuck with still panels, but we can get more into the characters' heads that way. But you can't really say that's the movie's fault for not getting that message across, because that's just a different type of medium, and you can't tell a story the same way. And I'm really glad that they addressed that, because it felt like in Batman Year One, they were trying to tell the story of Batman Year One in the animated movie as a comic book, not realizing that it's a movie and you can't tell it the same way. Here, it's fully recognized as a movies, and they fully get the whole structure, and it's paced well. When it comes to problems I have with it, some of them are a little minor. For example, one that kind of ticked me off was when Carrie Kelly decides to be Robin. They actually show her stopping a crime, one, which is okay because it's not like she beats up the bad guy. Because this is her before she even meets Bruce Wayne. And so she just runs in front of him and the guy runs away because he doesn't want to get caught. The thing is, though, later on when they go to the mutant camp, she's like doing flips and punching mutants left, right, and center. And she's, beating up on them. And I'm like, you didn't need that. I mean, sure, you want some action in here, but let the action come from Batman, because Carrie Kelly didn't have any training. Even in this movie, they show that she didn't have any training. But Batman doesn't take her and want her to be Robin because she can fight. He wants her to be Robin because she showed no fear when, to go up against the mutant leader. She just did everything. She showed that she was talented, smart, and could think on her feet, and she showed all that in those moments without having to actually fight anyone. I just think that showing her fighting, I don't know, she doesn't know how to fight. Why would she be able to take on these murderers? One thing that I thought was a problem, but really isn't, is the mutant voices. I thought they didn't actually sound like killers. They sounded like wannabe killers, people trying to, oh look, I'm an actual killer. It's just like someone trying to sound cool, being like, yo, sup homie G, what the boo? It just sounds stupid. And that's what I thought with the mutants. They didn't actually sound like actual killers. They sound like wannabe. But then I remembered they are wannabes. Like, some of them are real killers, but a lot of them are just like they want to get into the crowd. But I did, so once I got that, I'm like, oh yeah, I really am digging these voices. I still don't understand half the stuff they say, but you get the basic idea. So to clarify, the reason I say don't read the graphic novel before to go into these movies, it's because the graphic novel is better. But that doesn't mean these are bad. The thing is, with comic books, when we read them, we are really creating characters' voices in our heads. You know? So when somebody says something a certain way in the comic book, you visualize them saying that in your brain. And so when you actually see somebody saying that in the movie, and it doesn't match with what your brain says that line should sound like, it puts you off a little bit. And the reason I say the graphic novel is better is just because, as a comic book, you can dive more into the psychological. There's more time to show more things. And that's basically why I think the comic book is better. It doesn't mean these movies are bad. These are some of the best out of the DC's animated movies. Because they take the story of The Dark Knight Returns and portray it in a well-voiced, well-animated, and really, there's not much I can say to complain. Besides the Superman fight not being brutal enough, especially since every other fight is really, really brutal. Except for maybe the Harvey Dent one, that's not exactly brutal, but almost every other fight is really, like, nitty-gritty and really brutal and really well done. I think the Superman fight could have been improved on, and the fact that Robin was fighting before she even teamed up with Batman pissed me off a little bit. But besides that, guys, you definitely need to pick these up if you are into the animated, DC Universe movies, because not only are these a great way to tell the story of one of the best graphic novels ever, these are just really well done movies. And I think that if you guys think that you want to check them out, definitely check them out. I'm going to give a couple ratings, but I'm not going to use my laser gun because it's too much. For The Dark Knight Returns Part 1, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Really good, I liked it a lot, really enjoyable, it got all your epic moments and portrays them well. For The Dark Knight Returns Part 2, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. Still really good, just a couple of things that maybe it's not as well paced as the first one, but still it's really good. There's a couple of voice things that just, it's personal preference, so that's why it's not as high. But together, I'm going to give The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and Part 2, together as one, an 8 out of 10. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Remember, I'm LaserDude99, and if I don't like it, it's not worth it. See you around, everybody.
Be sure to check out more of my other videos on my channel, and wait for more coming soon.